Welcome to a very overcast London, but it's not going to stop us. Today is the launch of the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. We're going to be putting it against one of my professional camera setups. This is the Sony a7 IV, and with the collection of lenses across this video, it's going to come to well over $5,000 worth of professional camera gear. Particularly when we're talking about the camera hardware, there's pretty much only one changes here, which is the increase to a 50 megapixel ultrawide. So of course, we're going to test that lens out. Something I'm really excited for personally is the inclusion of log video. Apple has been way ahead of Samsung when it comes to video, and log is a big reason behind that. So we're going to put that head to head against a professional log system on the Sony a7 IV and see how things stack up.
We're going to go back to the roots slightly on this one. For anyone that doesn't know, this is actually how I used to do these comparisons a while back, in terms of giving you guys the option to actually see whether you can see the differences. So these are all ultra wide shots compared. So I'll give you a couple more seconds to come up with a guess, and here's the reveal. Yep, so camera A is the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, and camera B is the Sony a7 IV with Sigma 14 to 24mm. I thought I'd also put some of these shots entirely side by side so you can actually see them left or right. Lots of people often respond that this might be useful, so I'm going to try it out. Let me know what you guys think about this as a method of comparison as well. I do think this is a really good way to just illustrate actually the differences. You can see that the kind of over sharpening on the left compared to the image on the right, the roll off, focus roll off, just everything does look far smoother on the professional camera. The image on the left here, the S25 Ultra, is actually a 50 megapixel shot. I kind of chose the ultra wide 50, which of course is a new feature. Definitely the processing seems better on the 50 megapixel. That's definitely what I found last year. The 200 megapixel and the 50 megapixel photos actually ended up being really nice, and was one of my favorite ways to shoot. These definitely end up looking closer to a professional image when you're dealing with landscapes and faraway subjects. So straight on to log shooting. Now, if you guys don't know what log shooting is, you can see two images here. One is ungraded, and then obviously you have a graded version, which I'm applying over the top. Basically what this does is when you're looking for a much more professional look, maybe you're matching it with other footage, that type of thing, you actually are able to retain tons more color information and grade and customize the footage in post. Whereas if you just shoot standard video with your smartphone, it's kind of locked and loaded, you can't really change it that much. So this one's camera A, it's not necessarily going to be the same as last time, and then what we will do is actually we will switch over now to camera B. So I wonder if that is going to be obvious here. I probably don't need to tell anyone that this is the phone and that camera A was the camera. This test certainly does favor the camera. Log on smartphones does generally struggle in low light because you lose some of those computational algorithms that makes phones footage actually so good. This little bit here looks okay, but there's definitely a lot of weird artifacts. There's a lot of noise in this shot. Like, look at the noise here. That is really intense. So bit of a tough comparison shot for the phone, but let's go over to something with a little bit more light, a little bit more even balance. And this shot is definitely like significantly better. You are seeing some of the characteristics that actually log allows from a smartphone. The images are a little bit softer. I've just applied the standard LUT. It's actually an official LUT from Samsung for this footage. I will link it down below if you guys are interested in picking that up for your own footage. But everything does look nice. The saturation's pretty good, that type of thing. If we switch over to the camera, you can see that things are certainly a lot closer here. So the extra light really helping out. I do actually think that the Samsung footage maybe isn't quite as good as the iPhone log footage. Certainly we will have to test that side by side, so hit the subscribe button if you are interested in seeing an iPhone 16 Pro versus the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. Just to wrap up this section of the comparison, I actually also shot this same video, the same kind of walking around video that I've just done here, in the standard video mode. This is 4K 30 frames a second on the Samsung, and I'm actually going to put it side by side here with the log footage, so you can almost like see the kind of differences after a color corrected version of that footage, and almost like what it would just look like straight out of camera. You can hopefully see some of the differences. Most notably, it will just be like the highlight roll off and some of the sharpening, as you can see here.
One area that actually shooting on a phone continues to excel is stabilisation. This actually for me is one of the main reasons to shoot on a smartphone. The fact that you don't need additional support. If I'm shooting on this, well, maybe not with a telephoto, but if I'm shooting on this with a smaller lens, I'll always need a gimbal for stabilization with a professional camera because they're just not designed to be able to take walking shots and have the footage be really stable straight out of camera. You'll either need to really stabilize that in post, and things might not look great, or designed to have an actual stabilization system underneath it.
I also wanted to throw up some portrait mode shots because the portrait has really impressed me on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra so far. Like, the cutouts are really good. It was actually this shot here which did it for me. Like, this really does actually look like, if we throw up here, that's the professional camera image, which again, you know, is a very professional look, that kind of compressed, zoomed in shot. But let's go back to the Samsung shot. I think this is pretty much stands up. Like, the foreground is really nicely blurred. The subject is well chosen, well isolated. Really great shot on the S25 Ultra. Here's one more. Again, like, things are just like pretty impressive with portrait mode and that 5x lens. Speaking of that 5x lens,
one of the main advantages about shooting with a smartphone is you get such incredible reach. This is obviously basically goes from an ultra wide through to an extreme telephoto lens that normally on a professional camera you would actually have to have a setup like this. This lens on its own is a Sony 100-400 G Master lens. It costs about 2.5K here in the UK, so it's insanely expensive, should be much better than the S25 Ultra, but let's put it to the test.
So with this one, I pretty much wanted to just go through the entire zoom range, getting up to, of course, those high zoom ranges to compare them directly against that 100-400 lens. So we're going to actually do this side by side. You can see that that's the 5x, that's the 10x, and then finally I actually went all the way into, I didn't go to 100x on this one, I think is a little bit extreme, but I did go all the way up to 30 times just to see how good, you know, that real long range reach is. All right, so I know these aren't kind of totally like for like, almost as in like completely identical, but I was obviously shooting them one after the other. The Samsung's on the left and the professional camera's here on the right. Here's an example. This is obviously, there's a bit of a shake here. This is my bad. This is not a super good comparative shot, but here's an example of like a sharpened image. This is what Samsung are doing. They're essentially digitally sharpening the zoomed image in post, and I do think that the zoom obviously looks significantly better. All right, so Samsung's always struggled with motion and things like shutter lag motion capture, so I don't want to hear anyone in the comments saying that I'm putting them in situations that favor the smartphone, because this very much favors the professional camera here, and you can see that there is a massive clear difference in these ones. Like, this is a 5x telephoto shot captured at a high shutter speed. It's just very, very difficult for smartphones to compete, and I think, to be honest, that's across the board, maybe apart from the Vivo, but even then it's not going to look as good as the professional camera.
Okay, so I do just want to talk about the new audio eraser tool on the S25 Ultra. I am very near a really busy road, obviously in central London, but what is going to happen is Samsung's AI using the audio eraser is going to analyze the clip and then give me options to turn down different things of audio in the scene. So hopefully it should pick up traffic noise and that type of thing, and be able to dim that down and boost my voice up. Okay, so I do just want to talk about the new audio eraser tool on the S25 Ultra. I am very near a really busy road, but what is going to happen is Samsung's AI using the audio eraser is going to analyze the clip and then give me options to turn down different things of audio in the scene. And it will basically kind of suggest you different options based on the scene. If you're at a concert, you could dim the crowd noise and focus on the performer, that type of thing.
So sadly the weather got the best of me, but I've got one last test that I wanted to do. So this camera that's filming me right now is the Sony FX3, kind of main camera I use for all my professional videography work. And one of its main features, it is absolutely incredible in low light environments. So I've got one tiny little light on in my flat right now. I'm shooting at 1.8, 12,800 ISO, which again is one of the advantages of the camera. And I just want to see how it compares to the Samsung standard video in 4K in this lower light environment. We'll see whether that new Snapdragon chip actually does improve anything. And so here's this shot. This is the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, exactly the same position, exactly the same lighting situation. The things to pay attention to definitely are my skin tones and how my kind of face looks, because there's going to be a lot of processing going on by the phone, a lot of computational kind of algorithms into denoising the footage and hopefully making things look all right. So I'll leave you with this. You guys can make your own mind up about this one. Let me know how you think the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra did in the comments down below and whether you will be upgrading. We'll see you next time.